You are watching The Producer's Room, a streaming web series featuring the creators behind the hit songs of the music industry. Songwriters, music producers, and artists discuss their creative process as well as examining current issues and technologies in today's rapidly changing music business. Your host is producer, songwriter, and educator Dave Tuff. Welcome to The Producer's Room. Welcome back to this episode of The Producer's Room. Once again, we are here in Portland, Oregon with Tucker Martine, and we were talking about getting that whole Case-Lang Veirs record together, and it finally came together. And was it nominated? It should have been if it wasn't.
It was not.
Okay.
It was not.
Okay. Well,
kind of flew under the radar.
Listen to it. It's a great record. But Thanks. I could say that about all your records. So I want to talk a little bit, because I know you have that small background or affection for jazz. You did a record for Brian Blade. The Fellowship record. Did you do a couple?
Two with the Fellowship and one his songwriting, songwriter record.
Okay.
Worked on that a bit.
And how was that approach when you were recording a live jazz ensemble different? And did you guys track that here? No,
not here. Those were both before I was here.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that approach different? And as far as the drums and Brian being a drummer, you being a drummer, capturing all of that as far as mics and setup and all that.
Yeah. I was pretty strictly in an engineering role on those records. Okay. It was really just about capturing. They would do a few performances, and it was Brian. He likes the sounds that I get, and we just kind of see eye to eye musically. So,
are you using? You said you talked about ribbon mics. Are you using like ribbon overheads? Maybe get a little bit more technical for the jazz thing, like. Of course, it was how many years ago?
Yeah, those were some years ago, but actually, Brian's the one that turned me on to what he called the RCA shoe mic, which is the KU3A, I believe. And we had one of those as a mono overhead.
Really?
For the record, Season of Changes, and we had a couple of KM84s up as well, and we would kind of per tune choose. But he's just a big fan of minimal miking on the drums, and when you play like he does with
he's so dynamic too.
He's so dynamic. He just the tones are all there already, and the relationship between the cymbals and the drums and all, it's like he's taking care of it. So you really just need a few mics that in the right position to get it right.
What about upright bass? Because I noticed one did have a double bass. Are you miking the bridge and the fingers? Or?
Yeah, I still change it up all the time, but just because I always think that everyone else is doing it better, and but then sometimes I'll hear an old record that I did, and I think, what did I do? That was working.
Right.
But at that time, I was definitely putting a mic under the neck. In foam.
Sure.
That's
the Bruce Swedien thing.
Is it?
Yeah, he actually did the RCA bottle mic, put it in foam and put it in the actual bridge thing.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if he was the first, But he was doing some of those Count Basie
way before me
records. Yeah. So that's cool. The foam thing, and then maybe up by the fingers too, or.
Well, the foam would usually these under
fingers.
Yes, it would usually kind of take care of the more detailed finger part.
Okay.
And then I either put an RCA 44 kind of in the front.
Okay.
But sometimes that's just too huge and tubby. It depends on the bass and the player, but or a kind of a 47 style mic.
Cool.
Usually, between those two, takes care of it. Sometimes just the bigger mic out front. Is all you need, but. It's nice to have the option if you need more of the point.
Blending them. It's almost like when we record electric bass with DI and cab, you can kind of mix low end versus detail.
Exactly.
But And then I wanted to move on to some of the, speaking of jazz, I want to move on to some of the Bill Frisell stuff, because you've done multiple records with Bill, and you just finished one, right?
Yeah. It just came out. It's a solo record, like truly just him.
And that's what I was going to ask is, how do you treat, putting on an engineer hat, how do you treat the sonic spectrum of just recording one album with guitar? Are you thinking any differently?
Well, he alternated a lot between electric guitar and acoustic guitar, and then some would be kind of a hollow body electric where you want the amp and the mic on the instrument. And then sometimes there would be an overdub of, say, a stereo kind of looping thing with abstract sounds kind of bouncing around. And the main trick, I mean, he's another one of those people where his tone is just totally there. So first time I ever recorded him, I used 421s on the amp, and just blew me away because it sounded just like Bill Frisell. And I thought I was going to be exposed as a fraud because I didn't know all the crazy boxes these people must be using to make him sound like that. Right. But no, he sounded like that. And since I've tried a lot of other mics on his amps just to kind of try to not be too stagnant, but for this record I went back to those because I actually think nothing was better than that. And the trick with a record like that to me is just figuring out the place in the spectrum for those sounds to go. Like he likes to run 2 amps all the time. But I think if you get a bunch of overdubs going and everything is panned wide, then it's like nothing is really panned wide because they're all just on top of each other. So I would usually do, if we did acoustic guitar, I would just do a single mic. And
what would you do there, like a 47 or
what did I do?
Or more small diaphragm?
Oh, no, you know what I've been really into lately and I used for that is that newer AEA N22.
Okay.
Have you checked those out?
I have not yet. I've seen them, but
active ribbon, really great sounding on acoustic guitar. Not to plug anybody here. I paid full price for it. But so and then sometimes I would.
But it has the detail. It has detail enough to.
It does. It has. It has really good high end.
Okay, nice.
I mean, it's not as bright as a small condenser, but sometimes those feel a little too bright. So, I would just find certain, I would decide who gets to be panoramic and who needs to be more localized. And a really fun thing about that record is that we decided to change up the process. He always loves the rough mixes, and sometimes more than final mixes. And so he asked if we could just mix it as we went.
Right.
So
that's cool.
And by mixing it, that meant, he would finish his tracks and he would come in and we'd listen back just to see what's there, just like you do, tracking, listen. And
you just
and he would and I would just be thinking a little bit more like, oh, I'm also mixing. And so at the same time he's getting to hear his performance in the control room for the first time, he's also kind of commenting on the mix. And it would usually just be like, man, it sounds great. Like the thing in the bridge could bring the tinkles up a bit or something. Right. But that was a really kind of satisfying way to work. I think we spent 4 days on the record, reasonable length days, and when he walked away after 4 days, it was a finished record in hand, and that was just satisfying because that doesn't happen that often. Good. At least in my world.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, once again, I encourage people to check out your entire discography. It's pretty darn cool, just all this stuff. One other thing I wanted to ask you when we were talking about mixing it, and before we get to our crazy question section, is your use of reverb. So when I listen to your records, that's another thing that really sticks out to me. And maybe, I hate to make a specific number of things, but could you list a few devices that are kind of your go-tos, like whether it be a plate or a spring or a tape echo, by model, maybe even plug-in or outboard, that kind of create maybe some of your ambient things in your records?
I have the what's not labeled now, but the EMT 140 plate. I have
Okay.
a big one, big tube stereo version out there. That's always just on send one.
Okay.
So when I start tracking anything, it's always there.
Cool.
So anytime the first moment that I think, wonder what that would sound like with a little reverb on it. That's just the sort of.
Do you have a
reverb.
go-to decay on that, or I mean, not to split hairs here, but
I don't know if mine is aligned right or not,
Right.
but I rarely go under 4 seconds.
Okay.
But I don't think it's really
Yeah.
4 seconds. It doesn't,
Yeah.
if I have it at what looks like 3 3/4, it sounds to me like about 1 to 1.5 seconds. So
Yeah,
I
whatever.
don't know. But then as soon as I get to 4.5, it starts to get pretty big. But something around there feels really good to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a go-to, and often we just get used to that really quickly, right?
Yeah,
So we've
yeah.
been hearing back, and it's in the roughs, and it glues things together in
Sure,
a certain
sure.
way that if I go to mixing and I try to swap it out for something, often we're just wondering, like, what's wrong? What's
Yeah,
missing?
yeah.
So it's dangerous that way, you know?
Right.
Sometimes I wonder if I should have something else there in that place, but I mean,
sounds
it's
good.
a
It
great
works-
sounding reverb.
Works good so far. And then I saw your tape echo down here.
Yeah, I use the Space Echo a lot. I actually usually use the model that's 555, but it's in the shop.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
had to settle for the 201. But I just love the sound of a
Yeah.
good tape echo.
Yeah.
I mean, as great as the plugins are, and they are great,
Mm-hmm.
but I've recently was reminded again, there's nothing quite like the real
Some
deal.
distance there. Okay, and then I don't know. I see a lexicons over there. I see the.
Well, I haven't been using lexicons for quite some years. I couldn't necessarily tell you why.
Yeah.
The Master Room Spring is definitely a go-to for me when I want something kind of springier. It's third from the top up there.
Yeah.
And that. And have the Bricasti, which I think is fantastic for what it is.
Is that too high def for most of the projects you work on?
It's
Or,
too high def. for most
or
of
I
the
mean high
projects.
def. I don't know if that's the word.
No,
but
yeah, it
hi-fi
is. I tend to go for that if I really, truly wish I had a room mic on something.
Okay.
Rather than
Yeah.
wish I had reverb on something,
Sure.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, totally.
If I, maybe
simulator,
track
yeah.
the drums in the small room because that was cool for most of the songs, but then on one song I'm really wishing I had a room mic. I can usually dial something
That's
out
cool.
on that that's pretty
Yeah.
convincing. Not that that's all it's good for, but that's kind of what it's
what you're using it for.
chambers. And with Katie Lang, when we got to mixing, she said, okay, the plate is cool. It's actually all kind of sounding really cool, but that's not what I'm used to on my voice.
Right.
I usually have more of a digital thing. And I listened to her records and checked it out, and it sounded like maybe a 480 lexicon, something
Yeah.
in that family. So I thought, the Bricasti can get us there. And we really tried, and again, everything sounds fantastic in that box, but she agreed in the end. It was kind of like we just built everything around that being part of the sound,
Right.
and all of a sudden it didn't connect.
Yeah, right.
So
Jump it out.
so there you go. I also have, I like the AMS a lot for usually just for, like when a sound needs to stand out more, like somehow a little bit of whatever setting we go for on the AMS, it just makes it.
It's subtle though. I mean, you're not sounding like Phil Collins records. but
No. I mean, once in a while, but not often.
Cooper Time Cube anywhere or no?
No, but the AMS has a setting called non-lin.
Okay.
That's kind of in that world. It's
Sure.
really, really tight, and it just kind of it's almost like it's almost so tight. It's between like a slap, but it's tighter than a slap, and it can just make the vocal kind of just shoot way out front if it's having trouble cutting.
Cool.
I love a Cooper Time Cube. I've been tempted before, but I'm like, all right. Now, if I'm paying
They got
$1,000
They got
for
plugins too. but-
garden hose and a box, I mean, where do I draw the line?
So-
I have to look at my wife in the face.
That's true. Yeah. And we were speaking of Fairchilds earlier, but And we will show some of this gear here in a moment. We keep looking over here, and I guess we have a camera over there, but I just want to make some apologies right there. Speaking of plugins, do you have any go-to plugins that are kind of your faves, like Decapitator or
I do love Decapitator.
Soundtoys?
The Soundtoy stuff is all great.
Echo Boy.
I use Echo Boy a lot. I mean,
having so much outboard, I don't know where you draw the line and say, hey, I'm going to go outboard versus I'm going to go digital.
Well, in tracking, I definitely tend to stick outboard.
Yeah.
And in mixing, I'll go for both. Sometimes if I think something's going to need to be automated, I usually will reach for it in the box.
Yeah.
I love the Soundtoy stuff. I love the UAD stuff. I mean, I do like the UAD plate. It sounds different than mine. It sounds great. And I like
are you geeky enough to sit here and do shootouts on all your analog stuff versus...
Not all of it, but I recently did. I had a client that was really interested in hearing the 140 reverb compared, and we were blown away by both, but we did think at the end of the day, either one you could make a fantastic record with, but if you had to choose, the real guy did win. But again, not the difference between good and bad. It's the difference between really good and fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. No, I hear you. It's that extra like 5% or 10%.
Yeah, and then but cumulatively, right? If you've got a lot of 5% differences, that can be big.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm really fond of, this is it's kind of boring, but the Massenburg EQ plugin for surgical stuff.
Yep.
Doesn't really sound...
I noticed you have the APIs, so you're probably limited a little bit because you have...
Yeah, exactly.
If you really want to get in there and...
They're 2 dB fixed.
Yeah.
And, not particularly surgical, so...
I'm pointing at the Oxes, but I was jumping up there, wherever we are.
I know what you meant.
Wherever we are. They all look, these pots all look the same.
I know.
On the
they all
APIs.
look equally cool. But
by the way, what is this?
This is a Legacy.
Okay,
from
awesome.
the early 90s. It's
cool.
A serial model 04.
Wow. And how many cues are you running, speaking of musician performances?
Oh, for headphones?
Yeah, like...
Well, I have the Furman system with the 16-channel boxes.
Yeah.
So I can just, it's all in the patch bay.
Yeah.
I can give them everything and they can make their own mixes,
That's another question I've been asking, especially I think it's for you lately applicable because you're working with these bands, but do you ever find with the more me systems that bands are kind of screwing up their mixes, like the bass player wants more me and the drummer wants more me and they're not listening, or with the people that you record, they're at a certain level?
Occasionally you can just tell, if they're complaining so much about their headphones
and
they have control over everything, you just know something's off. And I go in there and usually figure it out pretty quickly, but I will say I really enjoy going, like after a session when everyone leaves, going and just checking out the headphone mixes and like how radically different everyone's is from the others and how seemingly absurd some of them are. Right. And I don't mean that in a critical way, because it's what they need and it's working for them, but it's just incredible.
Well, I find it interesting because in Nashville, some of these older studios, we have like 2 or 3 Q mixes, and the younger generations, like, I can't even deal with that. I'm like, come on, everybody, they dealt with it fine back in the day.
Forever. I mean, in my basement studios, it was just the board mix. Right. And it seemed to be fine.
As long as you get a good mix.
If you need to hear more of yourself, pull your earphone off.
Exactly. Okay, so we got this interesting segment. I'll say interesting. It's called Rapid Fire, and I ask you a bunch of questions, but this is more for us to get to know you and as a person rather than just for the gear around here. So let's start at the top. And my first question is, which animal would make the best type of president if the animal kingdom ever rises up and takes over?
Oh, man, I wasn't prepared for this.
See, I'm telling you, man, this is like deep thoughts.
Man, maybe... Might be the possum. I ran
Okay.
into a possum in my backyard the other night, and I decided to go over and like check him out and hang out, and he was just chilling. He was like,
I
"Man,
like
I'm just
that.
taking care of what I need. Like, I stay out of the way. Like, you don't see me around, but when
Yeah.
everything seems cool, I come out, get what I need.
I like that. I
Everyone's
like
happy.
the possum. Yeah, that's cool,
Plus,
man.
I'm a big George Jones fan.
Hey, that's true. That's a good. You guys surprised me, man. That's a good answer. I like
Awesome
that
for
one.
Prez.
All right. So, what's the most money you've ever spent at McDonald's? Being drunk or otherwise?
Can I substitute McDonald's for
Yeah.
Muchas gracias?
Okay, let's do that.
24-hour drive-through here in Portland, bean burrito. I mean, they're only $2.99.
Okay.
So maybe $5.98.
Ooh. Okay. $5.98. So two. But then you said you had the whole family, so maybe we should.
Well, but
take
they're
some
not
of those
usually
trips.
with me at 2 a.m.
Okay, that's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay. All right, this was a little bit more on topic, but I like to throw the randos out. If you could steal credit for any great piece of art, song, film, or book, which one would you claim?
Oh, steel crit. Like
You wrote it and people would believe you. Like, I mean, we could do music and then movies. We don't have to do the whole spectrum, but however you want to split that one up.
Oh, man.
I know, I should have run these by you before we got here.
I mean, I did the Sistine Chapel.
Ooh, you did. You painted that.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Does that count?
Your neck really hurts because you're looking up the whole time. I like that. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I mean,
It was so weird when I first went there, and then you look up and you're like, oh, that's the actual Sistine Chapel. It's because you see it so much.
yeah, it's like a caricature of itself.
And then
almost, 'cause-
Cameron? Is it the Pantheon? The same thing? Is it the Pantheon when you walk in?
That's in Greece.
No, what's the one where Galileo dropped the feather in Rome from the.
Record cover?
Yeah.
I went to that.
Yeah, I
it's
thought-
in Italy. It's in Rome, but I forget.
Anyway, when you look up there, it looks surreal, kind of like
I know it's rapid fire, but
Yeah.
I'd like to
You wanna
upgrade
amend
my
an
answer
issue?
to the pyramids.
Ooh, okay, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So, by yourself, all those blocks.
Yeah.
You're-
What happens in Egypt stays in Egypt.
I got you. Okay, these are some musical questions here. Your favorite chord?
Minor.
Okay, minor. D minor?
D minor.
saddest.
One of the first chords I ever learned. Yeah.
Okay, right. All white keys, right? Okay. How many times does it take you? Speaking of mix objectivity, how many times does it take you to listen to a song you loved before you actually hate it?
That doesn't usually happen to me.
Oh man, look at you.
No,
That's
I
a
mean-
good That's a good producer answer. I never,
No.
especially if it's one of my clients, I never hate.
I think.
Well, there's always
I
something to
think
listen
we
for.
Have to. Well, and it's more an awareness if I start to be able to hear it for what it is and know that I've loved this for so long, and I'm not feeling that way now, that it's just time to step away from it.
Okay. All right.
So
all right.
I'm not trying to just be
No,
PC, but
no.
I think my mind goes time to give it
Sure.
a break rather than I hate this song.
And that's what makes you a professional. Okay, and this can be family, it doesn't have to be in the industry. So, if I dig too deep, let me know. But which living person do you most admire? Okay, so we can take the wife off the table.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's the gratuitous, but living person.
I'll think of a better answer later. I'm sure will pop in my head, but I have a lot of admiration for Obama.
Yeah.
Just like
Being a class act.
where he came from,
Sure.
and like what he's been through, and how he handled
Right.
so many things that have been thrown at him, and how many opportunities he had. To
Well,
be
now that you see
pissed
the
off and-
contrast, right? Now that
Yeah.
you see the contrast, it's apparent, right?
Yeah, and I'm not even trying to
Yeah.
be political,
No,
but
totally.
just
And yeah, I agree with you. I mean, coming up and just all the things he did as a community organizer and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and just all the ways that he's been kind of crapped on, and
Right,
and the ways
right.
he could lash out,
Sure,
and
sure.
be justified to do that, but has kind of taken the high road. And
Like I
Doesn't
said,
seem to be a productive thing to do in this climate, but it's still the right thing.
he didn't. He didn't over abuse Twitter. Yeah, exactly.
No.
So, okay. Which historical figure do you most identify with? Someone that may have passed on that you kind of say, man, I really dug what they did in the past.
Man, somebody like John Cage is
breaking some ground. Huh?
Yeah, so fascinating to me. And because on the one hand, from an artistic perspective, he appears to be really far out there, but actually, I feel like the closer you look, he's sort of more in the world. He was actually more present.
Wow.
And than I think most people. And he found such just joy in what he did, and really did his artistic experiments, I think, not for any kind of superficial external reward, but for the reward of the process itself and the curiosity. And
that's so cool. Yeah,
I don't know. Every time I see him or read about him, I just feel like,
and I need to
be more like him.
Research John Cage more, because that's that's really cool. That
he was a good one.
Okay, so final answer on $1 Million. I think you've kind of covered this in your interviews, but I think it's fascinating that your wife is also an active artist, and you just were saying that she's on tour and all of that. So how do you, or what advice maybe do you have to some of our viewers on how to balance, in this industry it's hard, family life, work, all of that, and how have you kind of come upon the balance with your family?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Every day it's a negotiation, because she's got a career that she's really passionate about, that has a lot of demands of her time, and I have the same, and we have two young boys. A lot of communication, and also just learning that I can't do as much as I used to be able to do, so I have to be sure the things I'm choosing to do with my time are the most important things. And ultimately that's kind of a positive thing.
Exactly. Weed out some of the stuff.
It helps you ask some important questions, like what matters to you.
Amen.
And which is kind of easy to skirt around sometimes if you've got all the time in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Find priorities.
Yeah. Man, or just maybe don't marry somebody that's in the same field as you.
That's true. There's that too, but you guys seem to have made it work, and plus been artistically active together, which is very admirable.
That's how we met, was collaborating. So it's actually really great, positive for us to do that every couple of years, to make something together.
Get to spend some time
remember
together.
That connection.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
Hand the kids off to someone for 8 hours a day.
So, last question for our rapid fire, and really to wrap it up, and then we'll take a look at some of your outboard and gear and such. What are you excited about right now? What's coming up? And when you can either talk about the industry as a whole, like what you're excited about, in the music industry, or your specific studio and workspace, or all of the above.
Well, an obvious thing to me comes to mind is I'm actually going to be moving my studio.
Okay.
Which
still in Portland.
Oh yeah, but my wife and I were able to buy a building.
Oh, good for you guys.
That is being built out right now.
Awesome.
So I've absolutely loved this place, but kind of being at the mercy of a landlord, and having my whole livelihood in here, and
I hear you.
When I've kind of thought through what it would be like the day he decides that it's time for me to get out. Like, I can't just plop this stuff in any old room.
Right.
And we kind of tripped into this place that's close to home, close to the kids' school, close to just like walk to everything. Like right here, it's not a simple walk to,
Well, when you were talking about
stuff.
balancing family and work life,
that's so. Yeah. It kind of ticks all the boxes, raising our overhead, but but it feels really good.
That's
to
cool,
just have
man.
it be our own.
So
So
I'm glad
I mean,
you found something. Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I'm just excited. I feel like music is, everywhere I turn, like I don't have enough time to find all the great new music that's coming out. But every time I have time, I find more stuff.
I mean, but you find it exciting that things like Spotify, where now the whole world has a simple access to music, or do you think that devalues it? Or I mean, this is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah,
obviously.
I mean,
but
such mixed feelings. I definitely don't think that the business model is dialed in.
Yeah.
But
Maybe small steps on the way there.
I embrace. I mean, I use those services to check stuff out. I'm just a voracious music consumer. I buy LPs a lot. I still buy a lot of LPs. I mean, I'm definitely still buying records, going to see bands, but for someone who just wants to check everything out, it's a great way to find out what I'm psyched about. So I feel optimistic. I think you can look at transitions in the music business every whatever it is, 20 years, right? There's always,
something.
There's always something. It's always changed, and it's always a bummer for whoever's just gotten used to one way.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even when I came up, my interest in recording, you had to be all in, right? It wasn't just like, oh, it's on my laptop, let's just mess around. Hey, go to Amazon and order this USB mic and do the thing. Like,
I mean, we're talking about millions of dollars on the line. Yeah, I mean, as far as an investment, even to cut something. back in the day.
Right.
Yeah.
And as a kind of an amateur hobbyist, I worked 6 nights a week at a restaurant, and buy one little crappy mic at a time, and then right when Mackie came out, and you could get a 24 by 8, if you saved up just enough dollars. But now it's, so at that time it was sort of like, oh, you're into recording, you have recording stuff, like you must be all about it. That's something pretty special. And these days it's kind of an assumption. If you meet somebody and they're like, yeah, I play music and da-da-da, like,
so
I assume they have a home studio. Do
you think that democratization of recording or more hobbyists, or however you want to define it, is helping or hurting? I think it's great. Yeah.
I mean, it's something that someone from my generation and older could easily be grumpy about. It's sort of like, I put all my eggs in this basket with things were this certain way, and now, like, it's totally it's a completely different world. But it is what it is, and it's exciting. And I can, I've mixed records that I was really psyched to mix that wouldn't have happened if that didn't exist.
Sure, that's true.
We can have somebody we really want can play on a record from afar. It's no big deal.
Well, like that string section in Austin you were talking about. Yeah.
So I ultimately think it's great. I mean, I feel like I'm in a fortunate position to sit here as someone who's staying busy.
Yeah.
And say that. And even though I'm kind of terrified when I see what's happened to album sales and all that, I'm still, I still got sessions booked.
Yeah.
And I get to do something I really love to do. So occasionally I feel like the sky is falling, but then I got to go to my session. So, I think we're going to recover. I guess getting back to my example that, every 20 or 30 years, how it reinvents itself, it's always kind of landed on its feet in some way.
Sure.
And I think artists have always had to be resourceful and creative and
I agree.
And not just, spend all the time complaining about the fact that things are changing when you could just be adapting.
Sure.
Trying to be that guy, although I still mix on a console.
No, man, you're making some good records. So that's and thank you for blessing the world, as I put it, with your talents and contributing. Keep on going.
Appreciate that you see it as such.
Well, once again, we ran out of time, but we're going to do a little bit of B footage with some outboard stuff. But thank you so much for being on the Producers Room,
Thanks,
Tucker,
Dave. This
and
has been awesome.
hope to see you in Nashville, man. I mean, come talk to us at
Get back
Belmont
there a couple times.
Yeah,
I'd love
you know,
to.
just. But anyway, we'll check you out on the next episode. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.
Music is the most valuable thing that there is. People expect music to be free. It's like the air.
Every single thing you hear comes from the mind and the heart of a songwriter.
The only way we are able to make a living is by convincing people that this won't exist without us and it is necessary.
ASCAP makes sure that we have a voice.
The town has this energy. You never know who you're going to bump into.
We moved to Nashville and I started singing in clubs 5 nights a week.
On any given night, you can go to the End and watch a show. You go to Tootsie's and watch a show. You go to Exit Inn, you go to the R.E.M.
They're sick musicians and sick singers. It doesn't surprise me it's Music City.
All right, so this is Tucker's Rack, and no, actually, why don't you do an intro or something? I'll get out of the way. I'll ask questions.
I think probably most of this stuff is just standard familiar fare to your viewers. I don't want to bore anyone with all the same old stuff.
You said you started out with a 57, right? And here you are, right?
421, yeah.
421, yes.
I know, it started so innocently, and everything's just, one piece at a time. Like, okay, now if I just get some Neve 1064s, then I can be done.
Life would be golden. So I guess what pieces, if you had to say, well, Desert Island,
right,
you almost go to for every project. You talked about your reverbs, obviously.
Yeah. I'm big fan of the V72s.
Yeah.
For vocals, those are kind of a
so you go to those. That's your go-to more than like a 1073 or something.
If it's one or the other.
Okay.
1073. If I know I'm going to want EQ, I'll often do that.
Okay.
But
So are these generally, if you had to use an adjective, like just big, fat?
Yeah, they're just. Oh man, they're everything I'd want. They're just like they're forward, but there's like they're but it's not harsh at all. Not bright forward, just big, wide, like tall sounding. Just appealing. It's like they bring the best out of the mics.
But those are the real thing. Those aren't. I know they do some reproductions, but
oh no, those are the real things.
Deal. And as far as the Ampex from the old tape machine, those pre's, what do you use those for?
Well,
overheads or something? Room?
Those are really, really grainy sounding.
Okay.
The top is definitely rolled off. The bottom is big, but not necessarily really tight and focused. But it's just if you want something that's not necessarily full spectrum, which I often do. I just often like to filter out highs on certain things so that the highs on the right things can shine. I'll use those.
That's cool.
On ribbon mics, like drum ribbon mics. Those things are a blast, as are the RCA OP6s, which are maybe out of the camera view. But actually those I bought from Blackbird. One of them,
did you?
I think, still has a Blackbird sticker.
Now,
on
once
it.
again, I think they make some recreations of
Yeah,
those.
Retro's making one that I hear is fantastic, and they've addressed the fact that these don't have phantom power on them. But those might be the best looking mic pre ever created
those
too.
are pretty. So going back to here,
I'm a big fan of the level lock, which Chad Blake turned us all onto so many years ago. Just a total piece of crap old podium compressor from Shure, but it's my favorite drum distortion.
So like just your trash mic or what? Once again in Nashville, we out in the room, but you're right in front of the drum set. You're
a lot of times I like a 441
Okay.
kind of over the bass drum, pointing at the snare, getting a about the equal amount of both.
Cool.
So that if I bring it up, it's just making the punch of the drums a little dirtier and adding this kind of mid-range bite. But the Devil Lock plugin is modeled after that and does a fantastic
Pretty
job.
close to that, yeah.
But I pulled this out on a session the other day and was just reminded that I need to use the real thing whenever possible.
Can't get lazy, man. You can't.
I know. We should be required to just, come in once a week and remember what the real stuff sounds like.
I know.
1176, first compressor I ever fell in love with. And
do you get crazy about the revs or the revisions?
I don't. They all this is the first one I ever had, and it's the silver. It's not the sought after, but I'm pretty attached to it.
Yeah.
Because that was I've just put it on everything for so long and was always so happy with it. No, I mean they do all sound different, but to me, I'm not hearing a better or worse. It's just
different colors.
I just plug into whichever one's available.
Okay, so here's an interesting question for me. You said you loved the GML in the box. Mm-hmm. You got the 3200 or I don't know, whatever that.
Just the GML EQ
the surgical.
To me.
Yeah. So
8200.
At what point? It seems like, for instance, a lot of this outboard here is 4-color, because if you want clean, you would go in the box. Now, this, to me, is a clean piece of outboard gear. But when make the decision between that and a plug-in, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Again, the plug-in obviously can be for convenience, but this, I mostly just use this across the mix for just a tiny bit of maybe top. And, or maybe a little cloud, to take a little cloud out of the 200 range.
Gotcha.
But if there's a snare that has a nasty ring or something, that's definitely the thing that is going to get
And then Pultex across the mix bus too, or
no,
not necessarily.
No, usually those will be on drum overheads if I'm using ribbons, or often on ribbons if I know.
Is that the new one?
These are new, yeah. They're all the newer, yeah. But
cool.
I think they nailed it.
Yeah, definitely.
Love the massive passive. Love the curve bender EQ. That just feels like even without any EQ in, it just kind of adds this toughness to the sound. Not unlike the TG1, even before you're doing any compression. But I'm a huge fan of this on drum bus, unless the drummer's wailing on cymbals.
Right. Oh, goodness.
The 33609 I use a lot for drum bus if I'm not trying to be quite as crazy, if I just want...
But if you're being crazy, you use your distressors or
well, I use the TG1. I would say first and foremost for being crazy. Distressors are great, though, for going nuts. I do love the 1176s with all buttons in.
Yeah.
This modified Uri BL40 can do a really good crush, kind of all buttons in type of sound. And
what's this atomic squeeze box? It's talking about squeezing things.
Yeah, this guy I'm still trying
out,
to. I'm still feeling out. A couple folks have raved about them to me, and I didn't immediately connect with it, so I need to spend some more time.
That's good.
It's tough when you're in a session. You only
to
want to try so many new things, so I need some days to just come in and screw around.
I hear you.
No one's waiting.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about the reverbs already. So pre-wise, it looks like you have some options. You got the Millennia, you got the Neves, you got the B72s we talked about. You have your APIs.
Yeah, got the old John Hardy. You guys see a lot of those in Nashville.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
I love that. Yeah, on a Coles 4038.
I'm sorry, I'm getting in the way here.
Oh, they've seen that stuff before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and all the kids have seen the plug-in versions. So
that's right. Yeah, these are really just empty shells, just a facade to impress.
Well, this is a
palindrometer. Have you ever seen that in the Tube Tech?
Oh, yeah, I did see a picture of that.
It's just a fake panel.
Yeah.
I do. You have a few more esoteric pieces here. Let's get here. So, was this the spring you were talking about?
No. So this is my neighbors. How lucky am I? I've got great techs next door.
Yeah.
So whenever something goes down, which is about every day, something goes over there. And this is a prototype he's been working on along with, I believe, Anthony DeMaria.
Yeah.
It's a RCA BA6A clone.
Okay. Yeah.
And probably adding their own thing to it a bit. It's very cool and gushy sounding. I don't use it every day, again, because it's not quick and intuitive to me yet. It's got a few more things to dial in.
Sure.
And I am drawn to, I like to work quickly. So I need to spend more time with him.
Spend more time with that guy?
On my downtime, but...
Got the Valentine Overstayer, is that? No, is that...
Overstayer, is that him? I thought he was it UTA?
Oh, maybe.
Or is that
I
the
don't
same?
know.
I don't know. Yeah, a lot of the stuff over here is the oddball stuff that some gets used more than others. This kind of corny thing I actually like a lot, and I heard about this from a Sylvia Massey interview that I guess she was using it on that Johnny Cash record that she did, but it's just
Studio Technologies AN2.
Stereo Simulator.
Oh, so it takes mono or widens it out?
Exactly, and you can have a width here,
or is it like an Eventide kind of thing, or is it what is it actually?
It's Voodoo.
Okay, it's Voodoo.
Yeah, that's
cool.
No, but it's not it's not like a doubling or anything like that. It's literally just it makes it feel
weird,
wide, and sorry I can't explain how they do it. But it's a cheap little box, and I thought it was gonna just be a dumb purchase that I got rid of, but
kind of digging it.
It's very useful.
Wow.
Thank
you, Sylvia. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I got keep listening to those interviews.
Yeah, man.
And trying new tricks. PCM 41, I said I haven't been using lexicon stuff, but I will put that before the plate if I want a pre-delay. Because it's just...
I was just telling them that the old school way they did that, and you probably know that from Nashville, is with the tape machine. They would tape delay it. Like, how do you get pre-delay with the plate?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh, I'll start doing that. I will say that I don't know if the C37 is within view, but that is a coveted piece of gear.
Can you see that there?
This old...
Here, I'll move these
move that camera.
papers. Oh, move that camera. That's probably...
Yeah. So this C37 here is definitely a coveted piece that I got turned on to at Blackbird.
I'm thinking of the Mike C37, but that's a...
Oh, right. Yeah, no, they share a name. But when we were mixing that My Morning Jacket record, the thread got messed up. Or I'd turn it on, get it rolling for you. But so we were at Blackbird and getting ready to mix the My Morning Jacket record, and we asked what 2-track tape machines they had, and they gave us this list, of like 15. So we picked about 10 to bring in, and we spent half an afternoon just comparing all of them. And Jim and I just fell head over heels in love with this as the one. So that's what we mixed that record to. And after that, I had to get one. It just adds a ton of color.
Really?
Yeah. It's not for everything.
Yeah.
You lose a little bit of presence, but then you gain a little bit of sparkle.
It only goes up to 15 amps, right? It's like 15, and then it's cool to have some buttons, just boom, boom.
I know.
Just click your buttons there.
But it's a strong flavor. I always, when I mix, I'll mix to this. I mix to the ATR 2-track, and then I'll just run a straight digital one. But
that's cool.
But every once in a while, this is just the thing. It just glues it. It makes it sound. Not retro, but it does kind of make it just sound old and timeless, like it's just been around forever, So
what we're saying is we need a UA plug simulation of that.
Apparently, there's a Waves version. I haven't heard it. It's probably pretty good. But yeah, there's that.
That's cool, man. That's great. Well, I learned something there between that and that. So tell me about the Omnipressor. I don't know.
The Omnipressor, I'm not really... I can't really speak at length about it because he's not working.
Okay.
He has I bought him broken and
all right.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Ursa Major, I've heard
Ursa Major, that's fun. Just a tripped out kind of it's a digital reverb kind of delay. They're sort of the reverbs and delays work in tandem.
Okay.
And it sounds like 12-bit or something. It
right.
definitely has its own sound. It's not an everyday thing, but when you, so maybe it's sort of like when I might reach for the space echo, just to kind of trip something out and give it a little color or warble. This is sort of in that zone, except you could go for kind of an infinite reverb sound. If you had like a single event and you wanted it to cascade for a long time, this will do that in a way that's a little more unique sounding than maybe a plug-in or something. But there's probably a plug-in version of it.
And the SR4, you already talked about the spring. That's a spring, correct?
Yes. Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a fun one. I didn't talk about that one. I talked about the master room.
Oh, okay.
And this is really cool. So Scott Hampton, who lives in town, his company's called Hamptone. He's making these, kind of just makes them to order, but it's a stereo spring reverb.
Nice.
With pretty powerful EQ on it, and it's just super clean, like as far as noise goes. Spring reverbs, they're always notoriously noisy, and I don't mind that most of the time, but every once in a while, if you've just got one cranked in a mix because you need it, and then it gets to the quiet section, and all of a sudden there's this buzz going through your track or whatever, he's solved it with that. Like, he cut no corners. It's every component was sort of top notch, and so it's not an everyday use. A lot of times I love the dirt and the cloudiness of that, but when I need the cleaner stuff, there's that. There's also, it's kind of hard to see, but that thing there, I can't really pull it out. It's called a Great British Spring. Are you familiar with that at all?
Cameron, you probably know it, right?
They're pretty rare, I think. That's 2 long springs, and that's great. That really sounds, it's kind of halfway between the plate world and the spring world. Yeah, really smooth.
Huh.
So,
man,
there's that. I know.
Lots of cool toys, man.
And to think about 15 years ago, I didn't like reverb. Like,
really?
I wouldn't put reverb on my records and stuff.
When I listen to your records, your AM, that's like one of your deals, man.
Well, I was still chasing like atmosphere. I was really influenced by Chad Blake at the time, and he wasn't really using reverb, but he would use delay, like slapback delays and compression and distortion, which is also compression, right? And to bring out atmospheres and create depth of field that way. So speaking of that, and then maybe I'll just leave you with this. The Memory Man delay, it stays on the board. That's kind of my go-to first delay.
You can't tap those, right?
So. No, pre-tap. But it goes on vocals a lot, like for just a quick delay. Sometimes like not even audible, but connects the vocal to a track, or sometimes we crank it up and it's really audible. But
very cool, man.
Yeah, and it's nice and just grainy. The signal's degraded enough that it's kind of flattering when it smacks against the original signal instead of just sounding like an exact copy. Sans amp, always fun when something needs more kind of mid-range presence or just character.
Does that phaser thing work? I bought one of those. Do you like it?
Well,
like kick out, kick in, whatever.
You know what?
Do you just turn it till it sounds good?
Well, I would, except I'm only using it here literally to reverse the phase of for the Sans amp, because the channel, the monitor returns don't have phase buttons.
Gotcha.
So if I'm bringing something back here, I can't flip the phase unless I go through there. But otherwise, I'm sure it works.
We didn't even talk about your converter situation. Not that we,
Burl.
Burl.
Yeah, I've got the mothership out there.
Nice, dude.
I'm a fan. I went to one of those demonstrations and I drank the Kool-Aid. And again, it was another like 2 or 3% difference maybe.
Right.
But you start thinking about, everything going in gets that 2 or 3%, and everything coming out gets that. And there's someone, I think for us, like once you've heard that, it's hard to go to sleep at night knowing like, well, there's a thing I could buy that would make every single thing I do sound a tiny bit better.
Right.
I have to have that thing.
Oh, well, cool.
All right.
I think that was good. We may just tour around and shoot a couple more things, but we don't need explanations unless you want to. So,
Well, I'll
but,
probably just talk too long.
No, we're good.